Please turn to page 315 in your textbook. We will review Quick Practice 7-9 and Quick Practice 7-10. We will be entering cash payments in General Journal form in the General Journal and in the Cash Payments Journal as well. So in 7-9 it says Cantoria Cash and Carry made the following cash disbursements during May. Record each cash payment in General Journal form. So on May 1st we paid rent for the month of $900. This should be an entry that you're accustomed to making. So we debit rent expense and credit cash for $900. And then we'll enter our explanation, paid May rent. On the 5th, we paid Wrap Corp for an invoice of April 28th, $600 less a 2% discount. So we are going to debit accounts payable, Wrap, and we will clear out the $600 that we owe them with a debit, and then we will credit purchase discounts for 2% of $600, which equals $12. And then we're going to pay cash for the difference of $588. So the explanation could be something like paid Wrap invoice for May. Then on the 11th, we purchased merchandise for cash. Now this is a purchase of merchandise, so it's going in the purchases account for $400, and this one was for cash, so we're going to credit cash instead of accounts payable. So this was to enter cash purchase. Then on the 17th, we paid Ellis Associates for a $1,300 purchase of merchandise on May 7th. The purchase carried terms of $210 net $30. So we need to clear out our accounts payable. It is a payment on account to Ellis. And then we're going to clear out the full amount of the invoice for $1,300. Then we will credit purchase discounts for 2%, which would be $26. And then we're going to credit cash for the difference of $12.74. And then we'll enter our explanation. And then the last entry on the 30th is we paid salaries of $32.20. Salaries expense is debited for $32.20, and then cash is credited for $32.20. Now we need to put these entries in the cash payments journal. Remember, you would never put your entries both places. They either go in the general journal or the cash payments journal if your company uses one. So any payments of cash, anytime you would be crediting cash, you can put that entry in the cash payments journal. So on May 1st we paid rent, and it told us to enter check numbers starting with 53. So our transaction, as you remember, is debit rent expense credit cash. So we have our cash credit here, so we'll enter the $900, but we don't have a debit account for rent expense, so we will make one in the general debit column. So we'll enter the account name, and then under the general debit we'll enter $900. On the 5th, we paid Wrap Corp for an invoice of April 28th, $600 less a 2% discount. Okay, so we're going to enter this payment on account in our cash payments journal. So that's check 54. If you remember, we debited accounts payable for the full amount of the invoice, invoice. We credited purchases for 2% or $12, and then the difference is what we paid in cash. We credited cash for $588. Then under the account debited column, we want to enter the name of our vendor so that we can remember to update their account in the accounts payable ledger. Then on the 11th, check number 55, we purchased merchandise for cash. So if you purchase merchandise on account, that can go in the purchases journal. But if you make a purchase for cash, it has to go in the cash payments journal. So this is where we debit purchases and credit cash. We don't have a purchases debit, so we will enter it here in the general debit. And then we'll credit cash for $400. On the 17th, we made a payment on account to Ellis Associates for $1,300 for a purchase on May 7th. The purchase carried terms of 210, so this was within the discount period. So they will receive their 2% discount. So that was a debit to accounts payable for $1,300 to clear out the amount of the invoice. We'll credit purchase discounts for $26, and we will credit cash for the difference of $1,274. Then we'll have to enter our vendor name so that we can remember to update their accounts payable ledger. The last entry is on the 30th. Check 57. We paid salaries expense of $32.20. We don't have a salaries expense column, so we'll enter it in the general debit and in the cash credit. So once you've entered all your transactions for the month, you have to enter the totals for each column. Then you're going to prove your journal to make sure debits equal credits. So in the general debit, we have $45.20 total. Accounts payable debit, we have $1,900 total. And then in purchase discounts, we have $38. And if you add up your cash credits, you'll have $63.82. Now we'll take the totals from our credit columns and add them up. If you add up $63.82 and $38, you get $64.20. And then we'll come and add our debit totals. $45.20 and $1,900 also give you $64.20. So I know my debits equal my credits, so I can post my cash payments journal. As for posting to your general ledger, it's much quicker because we can post the totals of our accounts instead of every single transaction. So at the end of the month, we will post a cash credit of $63.82 to our general ledger. Then we'll post a credit of $38 to purchase discounts, and then we'll debit accounts payable for $1,900, and then we have to enter our general entries separately, and these are posted on a daily basis. So we would debit rent for $900, debit purchases for $400, and debit salaries expense for $32.20. Then the last thing we need to do is update our vendor accounts. So we would go to Wrap Corp's accounts payable ledger and debit their account for $600. We would also go to Ellis Associates accounts payable ledger and debit their account for $1,300.